This week's topic comes from Mitch, who wanted to know how to be eager to learn. I had to ponder that for a little bit. Before I could learn, what did I need to do? I needed to stop thinking I was right, which means that this week's topic is about shifting from being right to eager to learn. In this video, I'm going to focus on a time when I was certain I was right and how that impacted my relationships. In the next video, I'm going to focus on a time I thought I was right and found the ability to shift into being willing to learn. And then I'll talk about a time when I was eager to learn. And in the next video, we'll meditate, and then we'll do the Friday Ditty or the Frittity, where I'll wrap it up and I'll get a little poetic and a little bit nerdy. All the videos will appear in the playlist from Being Right to Eager to Learn. If you have a question like Mitch did, comment below or DM me on Instagram. I'm Angela, and this is me making sense of myself. The question I'm starting with today was, what was it like being less right? So to me, this topic is a little bit comical because the way I grew up, I had this idea that I needed to be right, that that's where my value was, and that I know now that wasn't true. But at first, being less right was really hard and humbling because I had tied that value to having the right answer. And I think that's because I got this idea somewhere along the way. I think it was an unintentional lesson that I learned just growing up, or something unexpected, right? There's so many unexpected things in this world. But how I took that, I didn't think of challenges in not just in my relationships, but let's say I had a school project and I was proud of it, and I went to take it to my mom, and she points out like all these problems with it. Well, to me, I took that as, ooh, I didn't do a good job, or this isn't good enough, or I'm not. And then it turned into, I'm not good enough. So what happened for me was I just, at that point in time, it was like, ooh, if I've got to do all the research, I've got to think of every potential problem so that when I go, I can be valued. And somehow I attach that to being right. And so when the first time that I was less right, I remember one of my kids was super frustrated. I don't remember if it was with me or with a situation. I don't remember. But I remember, I want to say it was the week before, a friend of mine was like, well, what if you don't have to be right? Because, for instance, he said, like, my experience is 2D, and then adding someone else makes it 3D. But I want to change that a little bit, and I've decided, like, my experience is one dimensional, and when I add someone else's, it becomes 2-dimensional, and when we add more, it becomes 3-dimensional, so that it makes sense in my mind. But I remember sitting at the table, and her emotion was extremely strong, and I remember thinking about that conversation, that I don't have to be right. Like, her experience of reality is her experience. I can't argue with that. I can't make it different than it is. And I thought, what if I don't have to be right? What if I just listen? And I remember taking a breath in that moment and being like, do I have to be right this time? I was like, no. And I learned I remember afterwards having this idea that I learned something really important. And I remember also that then I was able to validate her in that moment for her experience, because it was her experience. And although my experience was not the same, and I didn't necessarily believe, like, at first I didn't understand, and I think at first I was still like defending myself in that situation. But I learned that when I validated her and I gave room for that, for her reality to exist, it also gave room for her to exist. And I thought that was really cool. And the really neat thing is I'm still learning from this lesson today. in that moment, how did I endure feeling less right? I think I just looked at it as a possibility that I didn't have to be right. And what was it like to get through that? It was once I let go of the idea that I had to be right, that I was the only one who could have the right answer, it made it a lot easier. But getting to that point was like this tug of war to accept that I might not have all the right answers. And how did I know I was getting through it? Well, I was living. I was sitting there and I was breathing, and I had these ideas and thoughts going through my mind. And when I brought myself to the present moment, I was really able to listen to her. That told me, that's when I knew, oh, something is shifting. I don't have to be right in this moment. So, when did you get to a point where you were less right? I think that it was in that moment. And even as I'm talking to you, I'm thinking of another moment that happened, I want to say within like the last 3 or 4 months. Both of the kids were here, and my mom and I were in a conversation. We had a disagreement, and they were observing, which was great. It was fantastic. And they know that my perception is like the only person I can control is myself. And, if someone else has those emotions, I don't get to change them. And sometimes in the moments when things get hard and there's disagreements, I also forget, and I still do. So one of the kids called me up and said, "Hey, Mom, can I give you some feedback?" And I'm like, "Yeah, great, sure." And I was so excited that they were calling me to give me feedback. And I said, they said, "Hey, Mom, you can't make their reality wrong. It's their reality. You can't change it. If this is your belief over here and this is what you did, just own it. Don't try to change their reality." And I was like, whoa, this is something that I was trying to teach them, and they caught me and called me on it in that moment. And I was so grateful, because I think sometimes I don't know what I'm doing. And I don't catch it because it's a subconscious behavior. We're talking about stories or tapes or whatever you want to call them that have worked in my life for so long that even though I talk about these things and I work really hard, it doesn't mean that I'm always going to get it right. There I go, trying to be right again. So the next question is, how much effort did it take to shift? And in that moment, I think it took a lot of effort. And in the continuing moments, it takes effort. I have to remember all the time that I don't have to be right, that someone else's reality can be right. And in fact, I've also been really good at giving advice to people. So beside me, I have a little saying that talks about, if I have the desire to give unrequested advice that I believe is right for someone else, that it's really meant for me. It's not meant for someone else. My job is me and not the people around me. So, and sometimes that takes a lot of effort, especially because I care and I want to help and I want to see them feel like they're prospering. And what I'm realizing is that they need to feel like they're prospering. It's not about me feeling like I'm helping them prosper. If they can get there, isn't that fantastic? And they know, like, when I treat the people around me as capable, then they know that they have the tools. Then they feel confident. Then they feel capable. And I get to be along for the ride and observe it. And I think I'm really lucky for that. And what inspires you to keep working at it? I think things like that, because I know I get to have better relationships with people. The next question, I think I'm moving through the questions before I'm answering them, is how does being less right help those around you? I think me being less right helps those around me because they get to have the feelings of capable. They get to feel like they're valuable, and they don't have to think they're wrong. Like, I know when others come at me and tell me how I need to be, or they give me what Brian Fretwell calls suggestions, opinions, feedback, and advice when I'm not looking for it, or they tell me how I should have done something after it's already happened, that I start feeling wrong. And I don't like that. I don't think anyone does, but I think that the secondary part of that is then I start questioning myself. So, how do I know that their day is better? Well, I think I recognize when they think they're capable, and me being less right helps them be capable for themselves, that their day is much better because I see them doing things and I see them happier in doing the things that they love. What did I see to know me being less right made their day better? Again, it's them being able to do that. It's like sensing that feeling, and that they have that capacity inside of them, and knowing that it's like I can be there with them and support them and love them, and also be like, hey, I know you got this, and really believe it. Because I think when we don't really believe what we're saying, especially for me, the other people can sense it. I know for me, if somebody is telling me that and they don't really believe it, I can feel it. So what does using the benefits of being less right mean for the future? It means I can learn and grow, because then everything doesn't have to be set in stone. Like, the problems don't already have to be solved. And I think that helps me see more opportunities and more choices in the moment. How does feeling less right build hope? That's actually a really good question, because I think at first being less right, it like takes away a little bit of hope. But as I got going through it, it brought hope for closer relationships and the ability to get through tough times together, even when there's stress and conflict and things like that. Because now, when I get into a conflict situation, I don't have to be right. Like I said, it was only a few months ago that I did a really great job at screwing it up. And I really do believe that means I will continue to get better, because I'm willing to go and screw it up, which is that sense of not having to be right. And what skills will you use when you notice you're starting to feel right? I'm going to hope I can use the skills of being open to feedback and breathing and remembering that I don't have to be right. And for me, that includes little notes around me, little affirmations, if you will, so that subconsciously I'm reminding myself that I don't have to be right. And it's a lot. I have a lot more friends when I don't have to be right, which is really fantastic. So I would love to hear from you. When have you been able to be less right? How did you do that? What was your experience? These videos will be located in the playlist From Being Right to Eager to Learn. I'm Angela, and this is me making sense of myself.